Hey everyone, it's Marabelle Blue. Welcome to my coaching channel. It has been a while since my last video. A lot of things have been going on in my life. If you are following my main channel at Marabelle Blue, you would know that I was taking care of my cat, Miss Nikki, who always joined me on my show. And I don't want to get emotional, but my cat developed anemia, and I had no idea how serious it was. It started in May. We put her on steroids and some antibiotics. Her numbers started to go up, and we weaned her off the steroids. And I guess maybe it was too soon. Like, I still tried to justify what went wrong. Unfortunately, she was very sick. She was a young cat. She would have been 4, or she was 4 years old, and she just never recovered. I mean, she went through 7 blood transfusions, and with each transfusion, she just never got better. Like, she would be fine for 3 to 4 days, and then the 4th day, I would be fighting with her to eat, giving her medicine. Anyway, she is no longer with us, and it has been very, very painful, and I've been extremely depressed since her passing. Hence the reason why I wasn't consistently recording. I've been consistently now recording on my other channel, but it has been quite the journey, and I miss her tremendously. She's back there. I don't know if you can see. There's a crown back there, and that's her little urn, and that's where I keep her. Anyway, this video is going to be the secondary part to another video that I did a while back, Are Narcissists Naturally Born to Destroy Others? And in that video, I shared, first off, my opinion, who was sharing a story of a date that he went on with a girl who basically got ripped off by a con artist. And I couldn't go through all of the videos, and I'm not going to now. I'm just going to summarize what had happened within this topic called the escalation of commitment, which was coined by Barry M. Staw. Now, I read The Escalation of Commitment many years ago, trying to understand the logic of why people stay in relationships that are not working. Now, originally, The Escalation of Commitment was written to understand people in business and why they make the business decisions they make. It basically, to me, the way I understood it is that you can take the same concept and apply it to personal relationships other than making business decisions. Within the paper, I believe they had 2 groups. They separated them. One group continued to make the same business decisions, basically expecting different results, whereas the other group did something different in order to market the business differently, expect a different result from it, which the result was much better. Now, if you think about it in the terms of relationships, why is it that somebody stays with someone when they know for each day, for each week, for each month, for each year, it is not going to work out? Maybe there's a little bit of glimmer that comes up within the relationship that gives them the impression that it's going to work out. But alas, the person still goes back to their behavior that they are used to. Now, this is secondary, of course, to the experiences that I had of being with a narcissist, being with a grifter who constantly gave me this glimmer of hope that he was somebody that can provide, but he was never going to do that. And I think I knew deep down inside that he was not going to do that. He would always come up with these fictitious scenarios of, well, if we had a busload of money, what would you do with that money? Well, of course, I had a lot of ideas. I was running a publication. I wanted to do many different things with it. Eventually, I just took it down because a lot of it was just due to stress and the lifestyle of that side of the world. I just didn't want to be part of it. it anymore. I feel a little differently now, but again, that's something that if I decide to restart, I would have to really think how all of it will go. But anyway, I digress. I think it was important. It was important for me to have some sense of where is this relationship going? Now, if you go back to my last video, and I will link it down below, the girl who, first off, my opinion, had went out on a date with and basically was just dating her so that he could get more of the information of what was going on with this girl. She met a guy who she found out was a criminal, so to speak. And she was able to put two and two together by attending his court hearing and finding out that the same behavior he was acting out with her, he had did it with other women who didn't ask for that type of behavior. Now, while she was there, she had come to know the bailiff who gave her this empty promise of fixing up her credit. Basically, he was stealing from her. She had given him all his information and he scammed her and opened up credit cards and was using the credit cards to go out with other women. And she was paying for that, which is typical grifter con behavior of what these con men do. And if you've watched other documentaries on how different con men would say all of these things to women, they would cough up money thinking they're going to get some bigger return from it. And what they're basically doing is paying for the other woman's date. So while the other woman is thinking, wow, this guy has a shitload of money and he's treating me like a queen, she's basically paying for another woman's romance date. And that's how they do it. Now, of course, it has me thinking, was I doing that? You know, that was a lot of money that I forked over, even though the person was physically here. It still cost me a lot of money that I was putting out myself. I was working, my parents were here, and I said all this in the last video. But anyway, the whole point is when somebody is in a vulnerable position, that vulnerability makes them believe the situation is just temporary and that it is going to change somehow, some way. Now, fortunately for me, I pretty much knew that the situation was not going to change. It was going to get worse had I stayed in it. There was nothing that this person was showing me proof that it was going to change. Now, going back to further back, how first off my opinion had come about was because of Risa Tisa sharing her story in this like 60-part video, because it was more than 55 parts, but it felt like eternity with each part. It got more and more intense when she was talking about this guy, Legion, and who was it that she married. And the more and more that she stayed with him, the more and more she uncovered. I talk about this quite often, about trusting your gut and listening to your gut when you know that something is wrong. Your gut does not fail you. And in her situation, every day there was something suspicious. There was the lack of making a commitment of buying a house. There was the lack of commitment of buying a car. There were paperwork online showing that he had X amount of dollars, but for some reason, he was never, ever able to produce. Later on, she found out things that were disturbing, like the lies about his family members, brothers. I think he claimed to have a twin brother. I don't think that he did. I can't really remember because it's been a while. You can find her on TikTok and you can find all her videos on there if there's a day that you feel like binging. The point that I want to get at is the commitment that she made because she wanted to be married. She wanted to make a commitment to somebody who was parallel with her ideals about making a commitment. And this is what happens. Now, the other day I was on TikTok and I had seen a video of a girl, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this video for you.
I've been crying all morning long. My husband told me that I needed to pack my stuff and get out the house. So I had my bag and I'm about to start packing. I literally have nowhere to go. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. So there's a few things that I don't do as a married woman. Number one, I do not cook for my husband. I only cook for my children. My husband will be making his own breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Number two, I do not help him pay any bills. So if he is short on the rent, on utilities, or anything like that, it is not my problem. I will not be helping him out. His job is to provide for his family. So I am not financially contributing to any of the bills. Number three, I do not do his laundry. I have my own laundry and my children's laundry to do, so he could do his own. I won't help him put it away. I won't help him fold anything. Like that's his responsibility. Number four, he is responsible for replacing any of his essentials like soap, shampoo, anything like that. He needs to go buy it himself. Even if I'm at the store, I will not be replacing it for him. If he needs new underwear, new socks, or anything like that, that's for him to do. I'm not going to do it for him. I'm not going to enable a perfectly grown ass adult because then they get used to that shit. So, my purpose is to be the queen of the castle. I just sit back on my throne and I supervise the peasants. I mean, my husband. No, but all jokes aside, my husband is very lucky to have me. Like, I can promise you that he's very, very lucky. And I'm pretty sure my husband has endless stories to tell his friends, his coworkers about how much of a helpful wife I am. My purpose is to keep the couch warm and to keep the remote close. It's a vital role in our marriage, and that's what works for us.
A few moments later.
Next clip will be the results of what's going on.
I've been crying all morning long. My husband told me that I needed to pack my stuff and get the fuck out the house. So I have my bag, and I'm about to start packing. I literally have nowhere to go, so I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Honestly, I don't know how true this story is. I mean, she could be just, I don't know. I will say this. When you meet somebody and you are in the stage of getting to know them, a lot of people I know try to put their judgments aside, or they will try to wear the other shoe, so to speak. Like if they were in that position, what would they do? They're getting to know the person. They're taking the opportunity to invite somebody into their life in the hopes that they can build a partnership together. Now, there are so many things that I want to cover in just this one particular video. She said a lot of scathing things that made me question, did she want to be in a relationship? As well, what was she representing when they were first talking together? Because I only have her version. I don't have his version of what she was like when they were dating. So let's just guess for this particular segment. Did she pretend that she was a caring and loving person and that she could potentially be a caring and loving wife? And then once the ring was on, then she just reverted to what she knows of being herself, which she represented here. And I'm only going by the representation that she's selfish. She has children with this man, assuming that he is the father, and she only was taking care of her children and not taking care of him in a relationship. And again, I say this over and over and over again. A relationship is a partnership. When you have one person that decides to default from that partnership is when one should question, are we going to go to couples therapy? Are we going to see a life coach? Are we going to learn how to communicate better with each other? What are the options in order for the couple to be able to make their relationship work before they decide it's not working, we tried, or it's working and we're getting better at what we're doing because we both want this. You both have to want to work at the relationship. This is the opposite from the escalation of commitment, because the idea of the escalation of commitment is someone who keeps putting in their all and they're not getting anything in return. It's kind of like what I've been talking about on my main channel. I've been doing this new segment called Pathetically Unfiltered. You have a lot of people who keep vouching for Donald Trump like he is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they are waiting for this pivotal moment where their life is going to change. A lot of them think that they're going to have more money in their pocket. They claim that they had more money in their pocket beforehand when he was president. And I said before, and the video will be up by the time I put up this video, yes, because there was a pandemic. Where were you going? You were not going anywhere. So of course you had more money in your pocket. But the minute that everybody had to go back to work, whether it was working remote or going back into the office, those resources that you had just sitting there doing nothing, now you need to use it. You need gas for your car, or you're taking transportation, or you're taking public transportation. All of these things cost money. They're not going to be free. So of course, your resources are not going to be the same, because now we're all going back out into the world, correct? And in that case, everyone seems to be waiting for this magical moment where all of a sudden everything is going to be okay. And it's not going to be okay. If you look at my video, The History of Cults and the Power of Lies that they carry, the issue is the power of the lie, what everybody wants to believe. And I hate to use this as a comparison, but it's kind of like being in an abusive relationship, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, because a lot of it is more mental than anything else. You keep thinking that something is going to change, and it's not going to change. My own personal experience, having been with a narcissist who's a grifter, were the constant lies, the boatload of fantasy money that was never going to be, the constant feel sorry for me stories. And it was the same way like the girl who got swindled by the bailiff. He gave her a handful of stories about why her credit score went down. And it wasn't until she did research and found out these credit cards that he had opened, because she gave him all of the information, and he was going out and gallivanting with other women. Relationships are very challenging. They can be very challenging. But at the same time, you have this girl that I showed you that was talking about how she doesn't do laundry he has to do his own laundry. He has to do his own dinner. Well, if he's stuck with the bills, that's not my problem. That's his problem. Yeah, it is your problem. You live there. You live there with your husband. So it is your problem, because if the lights go out, you're not going to have any lights. What are you going to do? Get up and pick up your kids and go to your mom's house? How many people have that opportunity? What was the point of getting married and being in a relationship if you were going to treat your partner like shit? Now, of course, this can go so many different ways. We live in a society today where you have a lot of men chastising women, men wanting to control women, men feeling like they control other women and their bodies, and they don't. And that's a whole other issue that I'll probably talk about on my Patreon instead of on YouTube. It's bad when you see a woman like this saying, well, I don't do XYZ for my husband. He's on his own. And then you're going to have the man saying, you see, and this is why I'm not in a relationship. Because you have very angry men who will just use that as an example. And not all women are like that. Imagine if I did that to every man that I met, assuming that they are a grifter and a narcissist, and never giving somebody the chance to be who they are and getting to know them, and not comparing them to a piece of shit that I was with previously. That is not fair, and it is not right. However, having that experience, now I know that if I meet somebody who possesses any of those attributes, why would I stay with them? I would not, because now I have the experience, the education to know that I don't need to stick around for it. It's not going to change. In the famous words of Maya Angelou, if they show you who they are, believe them. And it's probably not the exact quote. Believe that person. Believe the representation. It may not be there at first because, first meetings, we're all on our good behavior and we're dressed up really nice and we're out to make a good first impression. But what about the second meeting, the third meeting? Every meeting, you're uncovering who that person is as they are doing the same thing with you. So, of course, that would beg the question with this girl, what was going on? What was going on with him that he thought this was a great match? Maybe in the beginning it was great. Maybe later on down the line, she just decided to flip and say, you know what, I'm just done with you. And now you're on your own. That's an entirely different story. Again, we are just seeing her part of, I don't do this, I don't do that. And then later on crying, he's throwing me out and I don't know where I'm going to go. And then you think to yourself, well, you pretty much put yourself there because you said you would not do any of these things for him. And then you're disparaging him online. And that is the one thing that I'm really against. When you are physically with your partner and you use your social media to disparage them. A great example was Married at First Sight with Steve and Noy. And I had covered this on my Marabelle Blue channel. So Steve and Noy, they seemed like the perfect couple, but Noy really didn't want to be in the relationship at all. There was one scene where she was cooking soup for him and it was like she wasn't interested in the soup. And then he had made a comment about like, don't overcook it because then the noodles would be like all mashy. And she got like an attitude. She was already like not really a part of the relationship. She kept showing it week after week. She was not interested in being in the relationship. Now, her main issue was because Steve did not have a job. I think he had lost his job. I can't recall the exact situation. But there was this whole thing, well, he doesn't have a job and when are you going to find a job? And I'm assuming that he already had like some money put away, which he didn't disclose. She was questioning him. Family members were questioning him, which I felt was really intrusive. Why are you so concerned about that when he may have like a savings that he's living off until he is ready to go back into the market? And I think he was even working independently, which for her, that was not enough. And it was clear that the marriage was not going to work out. Steve has long moved on to somebody better, but this is just an example of when somebody shows themselves. Lindsay and Mark were the same way. Mark was very open to having a relationship, whereas Lindsay had a lot of unrealistic conditions and she had an attitude. So like we already knew that relationship wasn't going to work out. Just to reiterate, relationships are a challenge, but they should never be difficult to a point where you feel like you're walking on eggshells around your partner so that you don't upset them. My situation had gotten so bad. I had said this before. This office/studio is where he was living. And I never really was able to just go into the room. The door was always closed. When he would leave, he would close the door. When he would come in, he would lock the door. So I never knew what was going on. He had a computer. I never knew what was on the computer, what he was looking at on the computer. Everything was like super duper private. And it was very strange to him because in previous relationships, my partner and I, we were open with each other. We didn't hide things from each other. And this was something entirely different and very, very strange. So I'm glad I got away from it and got away from it safely. Has it been easy for me to be in another relationship? No. I think once I was able to move past that and I did meet somebody else that I fell in love with, it was like a whole other game. And I've really come personally to a point, going back to the escalation of commitment, where I have to ask myself, is it worth making a commitment in the hopes that it will change? Or should I just cut my losses and move on? And with all that being said, I hope you like this video and the topic on relationships. And thank you for being ever so patient in this time of losing my little co-host, and hopefully I can find another co-host to join me on my shows. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Share this video, comment your experience. And with all that being said, this is Marabelle Blue signing off. Always remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and most importantly, take care of you. Bye, everybody.